My name is Ely, and I spend way too much time thinking about why getting more money somehow doesn't make us feel like we have more money. If you're someone who just got a raise at work but still feels broke at the end of every month, or if you've been chasing that next salary bump thinking it'll finally solve your money problems, hit subscribe and give this video a thumbs up, because what I'm about to show you is going to completely change how you think about income growth. Alright, so picture this. You've been working at your job for about 18 months. You're doing good work. Your boss likes you. And finally, you get called into that meeting where they tell you you're getting a raise. 3%, maybe 4% if you're lucky. Let's say you're making $50,000 a year, so that's about $1,500 to $2,000 more annually. You walk out of that office feeling pretty good about yourself. You earned this. You deserve this. But here's what happens next. A few months go by, and you realize something weird. You don't actually feel any richer. Your bank account doesn't look that different. You're still stressed about money. You're still living paycheck to paycheck. And you start wondering, where the hell did that raise even go? Here's the thing. This isn't just you. This is one of the most common financial experiences in America right now, and almost nobody talks about why it happens. We've been sold this idea that the path to financial security is just getting the next raise, the next promotion, the next bump in salary. And look, I'm not saying raises are bad. Obviously, more money is better than less money. But if you don't understand the psychological and mathematical trap that comes with small raises, you're going to spend your entire career chasing income increases that never actually improve your life. Now you might be thinking, okay, Ely, a raise is a raise. More money is more money. How is that possibly a bad thing? And you're right to push back on that. But here's what most people don't realize. Small raises, the kind most of us actually get, create this perfect storm of financial and psychological factors that work together to make that extra money completely invisible in your life. And I'm going to break down exactly how this happens, show you the real math behind it, and then give you the actual strategy you need to make your next raise actually matter. Let's start with the math, because this is where it gets interesting. When you get a 3% raise on a $50,000 salary, that's $1,500 per year. Sounds decent, right? But let's break that down to what it actually means in your life. $1,500 per year is $125 per month. Before taxes, after federal income tax, state income tax if you have it, Social Security, Medicare, we're talking about maybe $80 to $90 hitting your actual paycheck every month. Now look, I'm not saying $80 is nothing. But when you spread it across your entire monthly budget, across all your expenses, it basically disappears. It's like trying to fill a swimming pool with a garden hose. Technically, you're adding water, but you're not going to notice the difference. Here's a study from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York that found that the median wage increase for job stayers, people who stay at the same company, was about 4.2% in recent years. Sounds better than 3%. But when you account for inflation, which has been running anywhere from 3 to 8% depending on the year, you realize that most people aren't actually getting raises at all. They're just trying to keep up with the rising cost of everything around them. Your rent goes up 3%. Your car insurance goes up 5%. Your grocery bill goes up 7%. And then your boss gives you a 4% raise and acts like they're doing you a favor. You're not getting ahead. You're barely staying in place. But the math is only half the story. The psychological side of this is what really messes people up. There's this phenomenon in behavioral economics called lifestyle inflation, and it's absolutely brutal. Here's how it works. When you get a raise, even a small one, your brain registers that as an increase in your financial security. You feel a little bit richer. And because you feel a little bit richer, you unconsciously give yourself permission to spend a little bit more. Maybe you upgrade your lunch spot. Maybe you start getting the nicer coffee. Maybe you add another streaming service. Maybe you go out to dinner one extra time per month. None of these decisions feel significant in the moment. You're not going out and buying a Ferrari. But here's the thing. Those tiny spending increases add up faster than the tiny income increase. This is why people making $100,000 a year often feel just as broke as people making $50,000. The spending rises to meet the income, and sometimes it even exceeds it. Now you might be thinking, okay, but I'm disciplined. I'm aware of lifestyle inflation. I won't let that happen to me. And maybe you're right. But there's another psychological factor at play here that's even more insidious. It's called hedonic adaptation, and it basically means that humans are really bad at staying happy about good things that happen to us. When you first get that raise, you feel great. You feel accomplished. You feel valued. But within weeks, sometimes days, that feeling completely evaporates. The new salary becomes your baseline. It becomes normal. And once it's normal, it stops making you happy. This is the same reason why lottery winners often report being no happier a year after winning than they were before. We adapt. We adjust. And then we start looking for the next thing that's going to make us feel good. Here's what this looks like in practice. Let's say you're making $50,000 and you get bumped to $52,000. For the first month, you notice that extra money. You feel good about it. But by month 3, you've completely forgotten what your old paycheck even looked like. $52,000 is just what you make now. It's not special anymore. And because it's not special, because you've adapted to it, you start focusing on the next milestone. You start thinking, if I could just get to $60,000, then I'd feel secure. Then I'd feel like I made it. But here's the brutal truth. When you get to $60,000, the exact same thing is going to happen. You'll adapt. You'll adjust. And you'll start chasing 70. This is the hedonic treadmill. And it's one of the main reasons why small raises don't make you feel richer. Because feeling rich isn't actually about the number in your bank account. It's about the gap between what you have and what you think you need. And if that gap never closes, if you keep moving the goalposts every time you make progress, you're never going to feel wealthy no matter how much you earn. Now look, I know this is starting to sound pretty depressing. You're probably thinking, so what? I'm just screwed? I should never ask for a raise. Obviously not. Raises are important. Career progression is important. Growing your income is one of the most powerful financial tools you have. But here's what you need to understand. Small raises only work. They only actually improve your financial life if you have a plan for them before they happen. If you just let that extra money flow into your regular spending, you will never feel the benefit. It'll vanish. But if you're intentional about it, if you trap that money before your brain can adapt to it, you can actually use it to build wealth. Here's the strategy, and this is something that completely changed how I think about raises. The moment you find out you're getting a raise, before that first bigger paycheck even hits, you need to automate where that extra money goes. And I don't mean put it in your checking account and promise yourself you'll save it later. I mean literally set up an automatic transfer that pulls the difference between your old paycheck and your new paycheck into a separate account that you don't touch. Let's go back to our example. You're making $50,000, you get bumped to $52,000. That's about $80 to $90 extra per month after taxes. The day before your first new paycheck hits, you set up an automatic transfer of $85 from your checking account to a high-yield savings account or an investment account. Every single month. No thinking, no deciding. It just happens. Here's why this works. Your brain never gets the chance to adapt to the higher income because you never actually see it in your spending account. As far as your daily life is concerned, you're still making $50,000. You still have the same budget. You still have the same constraints. But in the background, you're now saving an extra $1,000 per year without even noticing it. And this is where the magic happens. Because when you don't feel the sacrifice, when you don't feel like you're giving something up, saving becomes effortless. You're not fighting against lifestyle inflation. You're preventing it from happening in the first place. Now you might be thinking, okay, but $1,000 a year, that's still not that much. I'm still not going to feel rich. And you're absolutely right. $1,000 a year isn't going to change your life. But here's what most people don't realize. This isn't about the first raise. This is about every raise for the rest of your career. Let's say you stay at your company for 5 years and you get a 3% raise every single year. If you automate the increase from every single raise, by year 5 you're saving about $4,000 per year without feeling it. That's $4,000 you didn't have before. For $1,000 that's going toward your financial goals instead of evaporating into slightly nicer lunches. But it gets even better if you invest that money. Let's say you take that $85 per month and you put it into a low-cost index fund. Over 30 years, assuming a 7% average annual return, which is pretty conservative for the stock market historically, that single 3% raise that you automated turns into about $100,000. One raise, one decision to automate the increase. $100,000. Now imagine you do this with every raise you ever get. The numbers start getting really interesting really fast. Here's a study from Fidelity that looked at 401k millionaires, people who have over $1 million saved in their retirement accounts. You know what the most common trait was among these people? It wasn't that they had massive salaries. It wasn't that they got huge bonuses. It was that they consistently increased their savings rate whenever their income went up. They didn't let lifestyle inflation eat their raises. They captured that money and put it to work. And over decades, that discipline compounded into serious wealth. But let's talk about the other side of this, because there's a scenario where small raises actually do make you feel richer, and it's important to understand when that happens. If you're currently struggling to make ends meet, if you're behind on bills, if you're drowning in high-interest debt, a small raise can be genuinely life-changing even if you don't save a dollar of it. Because in that situation, the raise isn't about building wealth. It's about reducing stress. It's about finally being able to pay your electric bill on time. It's about not having to choose between groceries and gas. That psychological relief is real and it's valuable. So if that's where you are right now, I'm not telling you to save every penny of your raise. Use it to stabilize your situation first. Get current on your bills. Build a tiny emergency fund. Stop the financial bleeding. But once you're stable, once you're no longer in crisis mode, that's when you need to start capturing your raises before lifestyle inflation does. Now here's where it gets interesting from a career strategy perspective. Understanding that small raises don't make you feel richer should actually change how you think about your career entirely. If 3% annual raises aren't moving the needle, if they're just keeping you even with inflation while your company pockets the value of your increasing productivity, then you need to be way more aggressive about how you grow your income. This means having uncomfortable conversations with your boss about significant raises, not just cost of living adjustments. This means being willing to switch companies, because study after study shows that job switchers earn way more over their careers than job stayers. A Bankrate survey found that workers who changed jobs saw a median pay increase of 10%, while workers who stayed at the same company saw a median increase of 4%. That gap compounds massively over time. Here's what I want you to understand. The corporate playbook is designed to give you the minimum raise necessary to keep you from quitting. That's it. They're not trying to make you wealthy. They're trying to retain you as cheaply as possible. And the reason small raises work so well for companies is because of everything we just talked about. They make you feel valued without actually costing the company much money. You get that little dopamine hit from being recognized. You feel like you're making progress, and then you stay put for another year while your real earning power slowly erodes. It's brilliant from their perspective and terrible from yours. So here's the move. If you've been at your company for more than 2 years and you're only getting 3 to 5% annual raises, you need to start exploring your options. And I don't mean you have to quit tomorrow, but you need to know what you're worth in the market. You need to have conversations with recruiters. You need to interview at other companies even if you're not sure you want to leave. Because the only way to get a raise that actually changes your financial life, a 10 to 30% increase, is to be willing to walk away. Your current company will almost never give you that kind of bump just for staying. But a new company trying to recruit you, they'll pay it without blinking. Now look, I know switching jobs is scary. It's uncertain. You lose seniority. You have to build new relationships. You have to prove yourself all over again. But here's the thing. The long-term financial cost of staying comfortable is enormous. If you're making $50,000 and you stay at a company getting 3% raises for 10 years, you'll be making about $67,000. If you switch jobs twice in that same period and get 10% bumps each time, you'll be making over $80,000. That's a $13,000 per year difference. Every year. For the rest of your career. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. That's the difference between retiring early and working into your 70s. That's the difference between financial stress and financial freedom. But let's bring this back to the psychology for a second, because there's one more piece of this that I think is really important. Part of the reason small raises don't make us feel richer is because we're measuring wealth wrong in the first place. We think wealth is about income, about the number on our paycheck. But that's not what wealth actually is. Wealth is the gap between what you earn and what you spend. It's your savings rate. It's your net worth. It's how many months you could survive without a paycheck. You can make $200,000 a year and be poor if you're spending $210,000. And you can make $60,000 a year and be building real wealth if you're spending $45,000 and investing the difference. This is why lifestyle inflation is so dangerous, because it doesn't just make your raises disappear. It actively keeps you poor no matter how much you earn. Every time your spending rises to match your income, you reset your financial progress back to zero. You're back to living paycheck to paycheck. You're back to feeling stressed about money. You're back to needing the next raise just to feel okay. It's a trap, and the only way out is to break the connection between earning more and spending more. Here's what I want you to do. Right now, before this video ends, I want you to think about the last raise you got. Where did that money go? Can you even remember? Do you feel richer because of it? If the answer is no, that's your wake-up call. The next raise you get, whether it's next month or next year, you're going to do something different. You're going to automate the increase. You're going to capture that money before your brain adapts to it. And you're going to start building actual wealth instead of just chasing the feeling of progress. And if you're someone who hasn't gotten a meaningful raise in years, if you're stuck in that 3% treadmill, it's time to have a serious conversation with yourself about your career strategy. Are you staying because you're genuinely growing and being compensated fairly? Or are you staying because it's comfortable and you're scared of change? Because here's the brutal truth. Comfort is expensive. Every year you stay in a job that undervalues you is a year you're leaving tens of thousands of dollars on the table. And that money doesn't just disappear. It compounds into hundreds of thousands over your career. Look, I get it. This stuff is uncomfortable to think about. It's way easier to just accept your annual raise, feel good about it for a week, and then go back to normal. But that's exactly how people spend 40 years working hard and end up with nothing to show for it. The difference between people who build wealth and people who don't isn't usually intelligence. It isn't luck. It's intentionality. It's being willing to look at uncomfortable truths and make different choices. So here's my challenge to you. Take control of your next raise before it happens. Decide right now what you're going to do with that money. Set up the automation. Have the career conversation. Make the move that scares you. Because small raises can either be completely meaningless, just another drop in the bucket that evaporates before you notice it, or they can be the building blocks of serious long-term wealth. The only difference is what you choose to do with them. If this video changed how you think about raises and career growth, do me a favor and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button because I make videos like this breaking down the financial decisions that actually matter. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.